Welcome, everybody, to the Aliveness Habit. My name is Alex Howard, and these are refreshing conversations with everyday masters of aliveness. And I put this series together, conversation series, to explore the experience of aliveness and to learn from each other around how we can feel more alive in our everyday experience of life. And so I have a beautiful guest with me today, a friend and a colleague, and her name is Clare Davis. And Clare is a mental health coach and trainer for managers. She's based in the UK, and she has her own business, Nova Associates. And so I'm delighted, Clare, to have you here today with us to talk a little bit about this beautiful word, aliveness, and what it means. We can demystify it a little bit for everybody. And so I thought I would just kick off with the question, what is aliveness for you? When I say the word aliveness, what does that mean for you? And how has that experience of aliveness perhaps evolved for you? I'd love to hear.
Thank you, Alex. So hello, everyone. And I'm so excited to be here with you, Alex, because I love the work you do. So I love the term aliveness because for me, I'd like to flip it on its head and think about what isn't aliveness. And it's a situation that I found there have been certain times throughout my career that I haven't felt alive. I haven't felt like I've had energy. I haven't felt motivated. I haven't had the passion I usually have. And I just wake up in the morning and think, ugh. And for me, when we're not alive, we're not actually creating our best, what we can do best. And if we wake up every morning, I've actually got a quote and I wish I'd found it, but it was like, if we wake up every morning doing what we love, we're going to be alive. If we have passion for what we do, we're going to be alive. And one of the biggest things that I do when I deliver management training is I say, if we can work to people's strengths, you're going to get so much more out of them. We're so much more passionate. We want to do the job. We're more focused. We get more done when we're actually working to our strengths and really working to what we love doing.
Yes, absolutely. Energy, passion, motivation, purpose. Yeah. These are big experiences that I know people might be listening now going, oh my God, I want more of that. How do I do it? Yes. Right? Because they're just, these experiences are what we crave. And we are, we live to experience that, right? That's what we want. So how do we get there? What do we do in order to connect our souls and our spirits and our minds and our bodies to this experience of aliveness?
Well, it's interesting you ask this because I've been doing a lot of work lately on myself. And one of the things I've really tapped into are my emotions and fully understanding my emotions. And I think what can happen to us in this modern world is that, and I know I'm guilty of this from when my children were little, of we always have to be happy all the time. We always have to be happy all the time. And if we're like that, we don't really understand our emotions when we're not feeling happy. And what I found is in really working on my emotions and understanding where I'm at, why I'm feeling certain ways, what triggers me, etc., it's really helped me realize that there are going to be days when I'm not feeling great. There are going to be hours when I'm not feeling great. And an example of that was this morning. I woke up this morning and I didn't feel great. I took my dog for a walk like I do every day. And I love taking my dog for a walk because it clears my head. It gets me focused for the day. It's fresh out there. The birds are tweeting. I throw the stick into the river and it's just really lovely. And I see a couple of other dog walkers. We don't talk for long, but it's nice to have that personal interaction. And I didn't feel great. And I know why. And it's because I had I've been exhausted lately. I've been back to back with work, back to back with socializing as well. And I haven't had any me time and downtime. And I know that before I did this work on my really understanding my emotions, I would have just thought, oh, that's going to be a spiral down for the next day or week. But I reflected on it and I thought, I'm not feeling great. Why aren't I feeling great? I know why I'm not feeling great, because I'm actually really, really tired. So let's just deal with this in the moment. And I just let those emotions out. I had a bit of a cry. I gave my husband a hug. I felt great ever since. And I think what can often happen is we can hold on to these emotions too much, and they can make us tense and cause out all of our muscles in our body to feel tense. And because we're not letting them go, we don't feel alive. My take on this is, let's recognize our emotions. Let's thank our emotions. I probably needed that, needed a bit of a slow down, Claire. You need to slow down and reflect on things. And then let's just deal with it and move on. And it's helped me. I've been so productive today and been really alive ever since.
Yeah, that's I as you were speaking, I was a couple of words were coming forward for me, and the first one was awareness, right?
Yeah.
This awareness that you cultivate of where you, just of where you are, like an orientation, right? An ability to orient and go, okay, today I'm not feeling great. Got it, noted. And then the second thing was this capacity to be present with whatever is arising in that moment. Like for you, it was this intense sort of sadness, or just sort of an more intense emotion that captivates you, and then you're able to be present with it. And I think those two words are so important, that that are important words in the experience of aliveness. And I'm just curious if you agree with that, if that lands for you, and if that, how do people become more aware so that they can access that level of presence that they crave?
It's a really tricky one, Alex. And I think one of the concerns of modern day is that we're on this treadmill. We're going. And I don't think we give ourselves enough time to reflect and really think. And I will be the first to admit, even with all the work I do, I didn't fully become aware of what caused me stress, how I felt with the stress, until the first lockdown. And it's when I had time to think and reflect. And now I know all my signs of stress. And now I've taken that even a step further in really understanding my emotions and understanding how I'm feeling, but also why. So it's being present, but also thinking about the why. What's going on in my life? Why am I feeling a little bit exhausted? What's going on? Why haven't I been sleeping right? Or so really fully understanding that. And you can hear my dog out there. I did talk about my dog walk. She's desperate to come in.
That's okay. You want to go and get him? It's okay if you do.
No,
Are you sure?
sure.
No.
We'll see.
If you need to go, please, by all means.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, it's interesting. I as you share, I think one of the words again that comes up for me is this word busy, right? It's this busyness that we create in our everyday lives. And that busyness can be intentional or not. It can be very mindful. And we just move through autopilot. We get to the end of the day and we don't even know what we've done. We don't really know what we've accomplished and what's happened. And so, that ability to sort of almost like pattern interrupt the busyness, the habit of busyness, with the reflection that you share. And how do you reflect? What is that? Like, let's say that you do pattern interrupt and you have a moment of reflection. What's the practice that you cultivate in order to course correct?
Well, this is a very interesting one, because I was going through a very, very stressful time in my life. oh, when was it? Around about 2008, 2009. And a friend at the time said to me, Claire, you've got to learn to meditate, because I was all over the place. Couldn't stop, all over the place. You know, I just was pregnant with my fourth child. We were going through loads of stress and things were happening to us. And I looked at her, I said, I don't have time to meditate, to sit under a triangle and meditate. Who's got the time for that?
I'm too busy.
I'm too busy. I'm too busy. And that was exactly my thinking. Anyway, in the first lockdown, a friend of mine was doing a 21-day challenge, like a lot of us did, of meditating for 10 minutes a day for 21 days. And I did have this picture that meditation was sitting under a triangle and legs crossed, etc. And I'm not comfortable with my legs crossed at the best of times. So I researched meditation and I found some 10 minutes of meditation, guided meditations. And I actually gave myself a 30-day challenge. And I did it for at least a year, every day, not 30 days, every day, for at least 5 minutes. At first it was 10 minutes and it got to 5. And I just find doing something, so it's being present, but it's also focusing on just clearing your head, just helps you be so much more grounded, so much more focused, and so much more in the moment.
Yeah.
And our minds are too busy nowadays. You know, we've got electronics, we've got, you know, my mother's got a really good example. She said, when you kids were growing up, all we did was play in the garden. We didn't have all these play clubs. We didn't have all these after school activities. We didn't have all of that. You came home and we played in the garden. And we are very busy and kids don't have time to stop. So for me, it's stopping electronics. I keep my phone downstairs and I don't really look at it after 6 o'clock at night. Stopping electronics, but also I don't practice the meditation like I did during the lockdowns, but I do meditate when I walk my dog. Part of it is meditating, where I will just clear my head. So there's different ways to meditate. And I was talking to my son about this the other day, and he said, oh yeah, Mum, when I go for a run every night and I'm meditating while I'm running, clearing my head. And I think we can think of so many different ways to actually clear our head and be present. Yeah. But we don't always give ourselves time to do that.
Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one for sure. It's always something else feels always more important than clearing our heads. And so, you know, with respect to your work, what's important about feeling alive at work?
Well, I think it's very important. So I work with managers, and I mainly work with managers who are new to management, or aspiring managers. They may be feeling stuck in their role as manager. And I've been working with managers for very many years. And I found that when I was working with managers, it started about 5 or 6 years ago. Managers will start saying, well, Claire, what about our mental health? What about our mental health? Because I was working with all the skills of managers. So I retrained as a mental health first aid instructor. And so I got the qualifications to deliver mental health first aid in the workplace. And now I've adapted all of my programs and courses to always incorporate mental health. So say, for example, I'm training somebody on time management. I bring in the mental health side of things, because if we get the time management right, it helps with our mental health. And I've just found all the skills of management. If we get the skills of mental management right, it helps with mental health. If we get the mental health skills right, it helps with the management. And managers should be having emotional conversations with their teams as well. Not just the conversations around targets, motivation, you know, hitting your KPIs, etc. They should be having conversations about how people are feeling, because if we can work with our teams and really understand them, we're going to get so much more out of our teams. And that is actually key.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing that, because it's, you know, it is such a big part of the experience, the overall experience. And so what do you think that is the biggest barrier to having those emotional conversations and integrating the emotional experience into the workplace?
Yeah, I think there's a few barriers, and I'm glad you said biggest because I could talk about this all day. I think one of them is that terrible S word called stigma.
Mm,
And often managers won't talk about their own mental health because they'll look like they're not coping.
right.
So therefore, leading by example, teams won't talk about their mental health because it'll look like they're not coping. And if we look like we're not coping, oh, they're just going to get rid of us, which is, what happened to me. That's what the type of environment I became a manager in, and it's dreadful. And they ended up, the company I was first manager in had 76% turnover of staff. And that's because they didn't look after people. And that stigma of, oh, you're not coping, you're not doing well, you're not good at this. But it was only because we were under so much pressure. And if we can relax people and bring preventative measures in and emotional fitness into the workplace, it is going to make people a lot more alive and work well together. And
Mhm.
then people are just going to be working to their strengths. And they're going to be going for their targets with a lot more of a relaxed approach in their prefrontal cortex, not in their amygdala, where they get stuck. And we want people to actually thrive in the workplace, not
Yeah.
feel stuck.
Yeah. I hear you there. And I think when you say the word stigma, I think it's just rooted in judgment, right? Everything is feeling at risk, it's feeling threatening, it's feeling like the
Mm,
walls are coming in on you. And I can really appreciate that experience would feel particularly it kills aliveness, right? It
it
kills a
does.
judgment kills aliveness. When we
It does.
feel like we're under fire or that we're at risk on some primal level, it's going to kill our aliveness.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so our passion goes down, our energy goes down, our motivation goes down, all these
Mm,
beautiful words that you used at the beginning of our chat, all of that gets wiped out. And then in comes the retreat and the sort of the shrinking and the
yeah.
hiding. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So what what are some of the ways in which I know you do a lot of great work in companies, in organizations. What are some very simple ways that when
Mm.
people notice that shrinking or that hiding or that killing of aliveness, of energy, and what are some very simple ways that you can just notice
Mm.
those things and shift the energy back?
Yeah. So for me, I get my managers and their teams to really think about what are my signs of feeling, and that's what I did this morning. I recognized my signs, did something about it, had a cry, that's fine, and
Mhm.
then moved on. So for me, my signs are, if we look at, first of all, those physical signs, what's physically happening to your body. So some people might get a twitchy eye, somebody might get a rash. For me, my neck, all the muscles in my neck get really tight. And when I do my yoga, my hips get really tight.
Yeah.
So, and that happened to me this morning. The next one are the emotional signs. So I've mentioned to you that I had a good cry. I had a good cry. And I've now stopped myself. One of my big emotions before was I did used to yell at my kids when I was feeling really, really.
Mhm.
So I've stopped that, and I recognize it before I do that because it's a detriment to our relationship. So that's a positive.
Yeah.
And the third one is behavioral signs, what really happens to our behaviors. And the behaviors are actually can be defined also as unhelpful coping mechanisms. So they might be things like if we drink too much alcohol or take recreational drugs, or for me, it's eating too much sugar. I feel, and I go straight for that sugar rush. The other behavior for me is I can be on this whirlwind, like I mentioned to you, that my feet don't touch the ground. I'm not focusing. I'm going round and round and round in circles in my head. And literally, my feet don't touch the ground. I do 1,000 things at once. So it's really spotting those signs. And this is what I learned to do in the first lockdown because I had time to reflect and think. But what's been even more powerful for me is spotting those signs of the people around me. So the people I work with, it's who you manage. It's anyone in your personal life as well. And the reason why this is powerful is because then it can really help our relationship if we spot the signs and we don't react to people. So what can happen if we react to people is then we just get more and more of this pressure, and then we become demotivated more. So I'll give you an example. My 19-year-old son, one of his signs is that he will yell at his mother. That's all. He has to yell at his mother and swear at his mother. Now, before I realized that was one of his signs, I would yell back, and I would probably swear back as well, but try not to. And we would then have this him yell, me yell, him yell, me yell, and it will go up and I'll escalate and get 10 times worse. So now when I notice he's like this, I nod, and instead of reacting, which is what I've done for years, I respond going, you okay? I'll give you 5 minutes. You might need to go for a run. And I leave him. Yeah. And this has become so powerful. I mean, that's just an example, but in every relationship, because if we can work out these signs early in relationships, we're not going to get this spiral down of anger and anger and anger. And it's also back to this is why I've been doing so much work on emotions. It's really recognizing your emotions.
Yeah. That's really powerful, Claire. And it comes back to that sort of that word responsibility, where we take responsibility for for our experience, and that comes with a deep awareness of all the things that you share, right? Of our signs, of our behavioral signs, of all of this landscape that we all have, right? Everybody has a landscape, and so I love that idea of taking full responsibility for that. My husband, Tom, has just this beautiful way of breaking down responsibility, which is, it's responsibility. It's the ability to respond. And so that's what responsibility is. It's your ability to respond. And so I just love how you frame that. And we're wrapping up now because we're at the end. We could talk forever. I love it.
Quickly.
I love it. I love it. So, I mean, really, this has been just beautiful. And perhaps we could just wrap up with just what is one thing that you'd like people to know about the experience of aliveness?
Just accept who you are in the moment, because we are who we are. And if we can have that self-worth, self-love, and accept who we are and just appreciate this is the moment, and it can move on. Definitely.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Claire. It's been such a joy having you here. Claire can be found at novaassociates.co.uk. And Claire, thank you so much. It's been beautiful talking to you. And we will be seeing each other in the big, beautiful world.
We will. And thank you for having me as a guest. And thank you to all those listeners out there as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Claire.
Take care.